Okay, kids, let's talk about why I started doing witchcraft. And I can tell you the whole romanticized story, which is actually pretty good and it's not true, but I'll tell you what caused me to really go into it, right? At the time when I started doing witchcraft, I was broke. My first ever working was a money working, and it was successful. The thing about it, it wasn't successful as fast as I thought it would be, but it was successful. And money workings, I found, if you do them right, they're always successful. But that's how a lot of witches start. We start because we're in a place where we've tried everything else, right? We've tried, and I've always been a good budgeter. I've been really good with money. Um, I've been good about making investments and saving and all these things, but it just felt like with the COVID and everything, we just my family had a really hard time, right? Because I run my own business, and my husband's job pays about half of the bills, right? And so between the two of us, we were deep in the hole. And plus, I found out that we were $30,000 in debt, which I didn't know about because my husband had kept it from me out of embarrassment and shame. So I thought, well, we have like thousands of dollars in the bank account. I can just I thought I was rich. And then I realized one day, holy cow, I'm not rich. I'm actually $30,000 in debt beyond the student loan debt, and we're not even going to go there, right? Um, well, sure, let's go there. Why not? Between my husband and I, we have $300,000 in student loan debt. That number has only gone up since we graduated from graduate schools to be in our chosen fields more than 10 years ago. Okay? We have been paying our debt back, and I think at this point, we've paid close to what the premium was, right? But there's so much interest compounding and compounding because it's a massive amount of loan. And we're both in jobs where, it was $150,000 or so to get the degree. And I'm a speech language pathologist and he is an attorney, right? And because of where we live, there is no way to recoup that, especially not when we were just starting out. And now we're in our 30s. My husband's in his late 30s. I'm in my mid 30s. And we are just finally scraping our way out. Actually, we've been scraping our way out for 4 years now. In 2020, everything hit the fan. It was bad. Okay? I don't even like talking about it because it makes me go back to that time. But I feel like I need to because there's someone out there who's at that time right now. The reason I started witchcraft was because I tried everything in the book and I was good. I was very careful. I budgeted. I did all the things. Once I realized that we were in massive debt, I changed the entire way that I did my bookkeeping, right? And I took over the family expenses around at that point. I started doing budgeting instead of my husband was doing budgeting before. Um, and you know what? It's it is what it is. It happened. Um, but we have, we were working so hard. We were working multiple jobs. We were doing so much. And it just seemed to be feeding more and more and more into this never enough. No matter how hard we worked, it was never, ever, ever enough. No matter how much we worked, it was never enough. And we had bills to pay and we had a house because I thought we were fine. Um, so it's like it was out of necessity. When I actually did my first spell, it was me just hoping and praying that magic was real. Even though I knew energy was real, I grew up being psychic. I grew up being connected to energy, being able to see energy, being able to see and talk to spirits, um, and being very clairvoyant, clairsentient, claircognizant, clairaudient, um, all of it. Clairgustatory, clair, the nose one where you smell, all of it. Very, very psychic, right? So I knew about all that. What I didn't know was about how to use things in the physical 3D realm, because that stuff's all, up here. And that's where I'm comfortable. But how to use items in the physical 3D realm that you can manipulate their energies and their frequencies to help you bring what you see up here in the 5D, they like to call it, into the 3D, right? And that's what witchcraft is. Witchcraft, I heard someone once say, witches work in the 3D and light workers work in the 5D, and that's not quite true. Um, Witches work in the 3D to bring the 5D into the 3D reality, right? And we do that through all sorts of things. We do it through mindset, we do it through actual ritual, we do it through spell work, we do it through just how we protect ourselves, how we go through our life. And you know what? The time when I started doing magic, it was a number of years ago at this point. I dove headfirst because I don't do anything halfway. Like, if I'm doing this, I'm committing to my year and a day. And I took that year to, in addition to all the other things I was doing, being a mom and a speech therapist and a piano teacher and a wife and all the things, and managing a home and the business and the bills. I decided I was going to spend that year in a day, which is recommended by Wicca, because that's what I thought I was going to do, because I didn't understand the difference, right? I didn't know that there was a difference between just magic, witchcraft, and Wicca, which is a whole religion. And what's interesting is that I do treat my witchcraft as a religion, right? I treat it very seriously, and I celebrate all the Sabbaths, and I do all the things. But what I don't like is being told by someone else what to do. It's like that's the whole point of being a witch, right? To do things how I want and to make my money how I want. And I really hit a wall. And I was like, you know what? Clearly, what has been taught to me my entire life from a background of scarcity is not cutting it, right? My parents worked hard to help me get into college, to help me get through my undergrad, and then to push me toward my graduate school, because they thought that it would provide me with job security and financial wellness. It did provide me with job security, but speech language pathology jobs, they just don't pay. They just don't pay. I mean, it's like they get paid a little bit more than a teacher, and the work is significantly more specialized and intensive. And I'm not saying anything against teachers, it's just like teachers are also not paid enough. And speech language pathologists are also not paid enough. And so it's just, we never got out of it. Okay, we never got out of this debt. It was, and I did a projection, like a financial projection of where we would be going, and I just saw down. Like, I just saw a downward trajectory. I didn't see any growth in our future, and we were entering our 30s. In 2020, I turned 30. And I was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Honestly, I went into magic and witchcraft out of necessity. And I think that's why what drives a lot of women over there. It's either because they're tired of being stomped on, they're tired of coming last, they're tired of being treated poorly, and they just get really pissed off with that feminine rage, and they start doing like magic on accident, like chaos magic and stuff. That happens because you have so much intention in it that it just comes to fruition, right? Um, and then that's how a lot of women step into magic, right? I don't know about men. Men are different. I don't know. I can't speak to how men find witchcraft and why, okay? But there are men who are witches. I've never met one, but apparently they exist. And I've met many women who have either studied witchcraft and not fully gone into it or dabbled in it, or those who are like me who are like, this is what I do now, this because it works, right? For me it works, and for you it can too. But the thing is, you have to believe in it. You have to believe in it. And what made me believe in it was nothing else. It's like how people find Jesus, right? People find Jesus in Christianity when they're at the deepest, darkest part of their life, because it's something they can cling to. But I had already left Christianity like 10 years prior, and I wasn't going back to that because the reasons that I left were because of oppression of women and um, basically oppression of knowledge, suppression of knowledge. And there was nothing more to learn, it was no longer interesting, and it just felt restrictive as hell and outdated and restricted. And you know what, people, okay, this is the thing. I don't care if people want to be Christians, um, but I don't. That's the point. Like, I'd already found and then said no thank you to Jesus, okay? um, and, like, I don't have anything against Jesus. I have stuff against God, um, but the Jesus story icks me out, right? Child sacrifice icks me out. It's gross. A lot of Christianity is gross. I should probably get off that soapbox now, because I feel like whenever I start saying that, people come for me, even in the spiritual community, even in the witchcraft community. People are like, but I love Jesus. And I'm like, good for you. He's not my chosen deity. And then they get all weird because it's like, wait, deity? You mean like the one true God? Like, no, I mean deity. To me, Jesus is a deity. Um, Also, to me, the Father in Christianity is probably a parasitic entity that feeds off of our pain and our cries for help and actually does nothing. Just creates more chaos in our life. It's a chaos entity, right? It's not a god, okay? Okay, rant. That'll go in somewhere. We'll figure it out. But let's talk for a minute about why people choose witchcraft. People choose witchcraft for the same reason they choose Jesus. They're feeling lost. They're at a low point in their life. They don't know how they're going to make it out. They're having financial struggles. They're having struggles with addiction. They're having struggles with relationships. They're in abusive relationships. And honestly, an abusive relationship, um, it's one of the main reasons that women become witches, to gain some control over their life, because murder is illegal, right? But witchcraft isn't. And it looks like you're not doing much, but we know on the psychic realm, in the astral realm, we're doing a ton when we do magic. So my history is, I did my first casting. It was a 9-day casting for money. I took it very seriously. I did it for an hour a day for 9 days during a waxing moon. Actually, no, I actually did it in the wrong time. I did it in the waning phase, because that's when I wanted. I couldn't wait, right? I needed to start. And it did work. It didn't work quite as well as if I had done it according to more aligned timing with the moon itself. But it was like Scorpio season. I was like, we couldn't even afford Christmas. We couldn't do anything. And it was just like, I need this. I need it. I need my life to change for the better. And nothing else has worked. Let's try this. It seems good. And then I did it and it was fun because witchcraft is really fucking fun. Then there's so much to learn and there's no restriction of esoteric knowledge. Like, they don't keep women from learning certain things. They don't keep you from knowing certain things. You're not just supposed to trust and obey. You are supposed to seek and find the answers that work for you as a soul because you are a divine entity, right? And so I latched onto all of that and I was like, that is so cool. There is endless things to learn. I'm not going to get bored. It's fun to do the actual spell crafting. It's fun to identify as a witch and realize that I'm powerful now. And I was powerful all along. I've always been so powerful that I manifested everything I ever wanted, except for wealth and health, right? I had major struggles with chronic illnesses that were unexplainable. They could not figure out what was wrong with me. And it wasn't until I really started exploring magic that also improved because I learned how to tune into my body, right? I learned that my body is a sacred vessel and not something that my brain is just stuck in for a while before it goes on to paradise, right? Or it goes on to death or whatever, right? It really changed my entire outlook. Magic changes everything. Once you start doing it, magic changes everything. Because the thing that keeps most women from magic isn't that they're afraid it won't work, okay? Because we know it works. The thing that keeps women from doing magic is the fear that it'll work, and then what the hell do you do with all that power that you know you have? But now that you know how to wield it, your life changes. It does. It does. It gets better. It gets worse. It gets everything. And then it kind of like, it's like with anything, right? It's like a and all these like big life changes happen, and then eventually you reach an equilibrium that is better than it was when your equilibrium was down here. But for a while you're going through shadow work cycles and past life traumas and generational curses that you're breaking, and it goes forever like that. So it's not an easy road. That's why most people quit witchcraft, is because they can't handle the truth. Okay? But the first working I ever did, it made me feel powerful. And I wasn't sure if it worked because it didn't work within a month. And the book that I got it from said it was supposed to work within a month. And it didn't. And actually did work, but it was within like 6 months. There's something I want you guys to know is with money magic, it's one of the main things people start with. But if you want to manifest a life change in money, you have to change your entire mindset around money. You have to change it from something you manage and stress about to something you look forward to. Like, oh, I can't wait to do my budget today. Like, I turned my budget into a game. Like, recently I've been doing that, and it makes it way fun because I'm like, am I winning today or am I losing? Like, and then like, am I losing this level? So every day is a mini level. It's like playing Mario. My son is way into Mario, right? So I've been working on this, and the reason I stuck with it was because it made me feel powerful, not because the first spell worked so well. Then my next spells worked really, really well because I made them smaller, right? I made my dreams smaller because what keeps you from manifesting your first spell very well is that there's a lot of doubt about whether it's gonna work. And a lot of like, am I crazy? There's a lot of am I crazy? And there's a lot of other people, are you crazy? And there's just a lot of judgment that comes along with that label of doing magic and witchcraft, right? But there's also so much joy, and that's why I pursued it. And eventually I started working with deities, and I chose like I don't know if I chose, but Bastet became my primary deity that I work with every day, and then I started working with some others as they came into my life, and like there's some that I work with all the time. There's some that I work with during certain seasons. Like for example, I work with Anubis during the spring every year because he shows up every time I meditate. I'm like, oh hi Anubis. And Anubis is linked with Bastet. So in many stories, they are either brother and sister of some kind, or somehow related, or they are like married in some stories. Like they're just really close. Okay, the dog and the cat, right? And I feel like I'm talking a lot, but the point is, I started magic at a low point in my life, and it did change my life. This was my come to Jesus moment. But it wasn't come to Jesus. It was come to myself, because myself is the only thing that I've ever been able to fully trust. So I made myself the guidance point, right? I made myself what makes decisions. I no longer ask my husband about decisions. I no longer ask my friends really about decisions. I now only ask my inner being, and my inner being never steers me wrong. Other people steer me wrong all the time because they actually want me to do what is best for them, because we're humans and that's how we are. They don't want me to do what's best for me because they can't see what's best for me. They can only see what's best for me as it reflects through their eyes. And so I've learned you can talk to other people, you can ask them questions, but never, never trust another person with your major life decisions, okay? You are the only person who can do that for yourself. And the decisions you make that feel the most aligned feel scary, exciting, and like you're jumping off a cliff. And if you're a little scared, if you wake up with anxiety in the middle of the night, like, what the hell am I doing? You're probably doing something right. As long as it's not hurting you or others. It's probably just uncharted territory that feels scary, and it feels like starting fresh. When you start magic, it's fun, it's exciting, but it's also terrifying because every day you don't know if you're a fraud.